Over 2 decades of sports radio dominance in Utah.
My favorite.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, does this just bug you, just everything about your New Jersey roots? The New Jerseyness of your attitude, all this positivity before football? Everybody's all upbeat, and we know people are going to lose a bunch of games, but right now everybody's undefeated and talking about it like it's going to be wonderful.
Well, I care first and foremost about the two teams here. And then everything is secondary to that. And I get why they would have a level of positivity. Now, I also care about Utah State, and I'm going to pay attention for Weber. My guy's coaching there. I've got no problem saying
Air
that.
care.
Yeah, and so I want him to do very well. And but the teams that we focus on literally the most, I get why they're saying it. They had excellent seasons last year. As I've said, Utah's was the most overlooked 11-2 season in the history of 11-2 seasons. It seemed like it was chopped liver, and they went 11-2. It was awesome as far as I'm concerned, and they returned a lot of folks. I mean, they got a bunch of newness, so that is a concern. BYU doesn't have a whole lot of newness, and they got a lot of guys back. And with that in mind, you know, they lost Jay Hill and Guilford. Other than that, they lost a few players, but that's always going to happen. But the bulk of the team is coming back, so that should lead you to a level of optimism that is realistic. And everybody has optimism this time of year. It's just a question of, is it realistic?
And it should be the case with the Cougars. I mean, that was a good year. It's like you said, they got so many of those pieces back. I guess that's why everyone's obsessing about the wide receivers, because that's the one spot.
Well, you got to go to something. Nothing is perfect.
Right. Well, and there is the risk of having, you know, if they had even more back then, there's just the risk of being stale. You need a challenge. You need a.
Well, they got a challenge. They didn't make the playoff. They got killed both times by Texas Tech. They got creamed. They got embarrassed. I can go on and on. I can list all the words.
Go through the thesaurus, baby.
Right? And the one in Lubbock was bad, but the one in Arlington was worse because the stakes were much higher and you got a second chance.
It'll be different this time around.
And it wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
It was worse. Considering what was at stake, it was a laugher or a crier. You never hear that. You always hear a laugher. I want to bring about a crier. That was a crier.
DJ PK, and we're joined now by Riley Jensen, the former Utah State quarterback. Riley, good morning.
What's happening, fellas?
Talking football, preseason, the expectations so high, so much positivity. You want to put your shoulder to that positivity and keep pushing that positivity, or you want to temper some expectations with everything you've been hearing through camp?
Every year at this time of year, like everybody's undefeated, everybody's excited, everybody's, everything's going to be great. BYU's receivers are incredible. University of Utah receivers are incredible. We hear this every year, and every year there is some things that let us down. I mean, we've had some good years recently, but man, I think there's pause for a lot of things. I'm worried about the offensive line at the University of Utah. I'm worried about the receivers at BYU. I'm worried about a quarterback at Utah State who's very athletic, but maybe can't make it through a season, or hasn't shown us that he can make it through a season yet. So, yeah, there's things that we need to temper our expectations with. I think there's no question about that.
If you're Kevin McGivern coming in from Utah State to Utah, and we've been hearing about some stuff, he's going to put his imprint on it. If I'm a fan of the Utes, I want his imprint to be much like Jason Beck's imprint, because that offense was explosive last year. Why would you try to change things up when what you have worked at a very high level?
Well, I think it's impossible. Look, you and I have talked about this on air and off air, PK. I think the most important thing for Jason McGivern or with Kevin McGivern is to be authentic to who he is. Look, the offense at Utah State last year was very similar to what the University of Utah ran. I mean, the pick farmer was running all over the field. He was making good throws. He wasn't making, every throw in the book. but I thought the offense was very similar, at a Utah State level to the University of Utah. So yeah, I think his impressions is going to be on the offense, because he's going to be authentic to himself, not necessarily because he's trying to be Jason Beck. Here's what I worry about at the University of Utah. Everybody's talking about the wide receivers and how great that is, and I heard you guys talking to my nemesis. I don't like to say his name. Hello, Frank. But
nice.
He
that's Frank Dolce.
He was talking about how, throwing down the field is not Dan Pierce's biggest thing, but I think one thing that I'm worried about with the University of Utah is not can they replace receivers, not can they do the things that they're going to want these receivers to do, but I felt like J.J. Buchanan last year really worked himself into a position where he could be a really, really big-time player for the Utes that made key clutch plays. He wasn't a burner. He was almost like a tight end wide receiver, Shannon Sharp type receiver who was so good. And I think back to, my best year ever playing college football was at Snow College my sophomore year. It was the only thing in my life where I wasn't just bang average at something. And I had Kevin Curtis, who played in the league for 10 years. He could get over the top of defenses, but I had two guys. I had a guy who's my tight end named James Tamalpeo, who ended up at the University of Utah, and my wide receiver named Lance Mickelson, who was one of the best possession receivers I'd ever been around. He ended up being the leading receiver for Tim Couch at Kentucky. And those type of receivers are so important to keep the chains moving. So what I'm looking forward to Kevin McGivern being able to find this fall is that receiver that can replace J.J. Buchanan as someone that can move the chains for you when you need to keep moving the ball down the field.
Do you believe that when you hear the offensive line is 10 deep, that they'll get the production they got last year? And is that enough? Because the two games they lost, they didn't run the ball very well. They didn't score very many points. They didn't run it at all against Texas Tech, and they ran a little bit against BYU, but they couldn't run it in the handful of short yardage situations that decided the game.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that you're 10 deep. And look, I love Jordan Gross. I think he was an amazing athlete. I think he was an incredible professional and collegiate player. If it's just his eyes that are telling him that, then maybe I don't trust it as much as if there's some other guys that are telling him the same thing, like, look, you're 10 deep here. This is a really, really good offensive line. So depending on who's telling me that they're 10 deep makes me feel good about that situation. They're not going to be as good 5 deep because they lost 2 first rounders, right? We can pretend all we want like that's going to be, just a money position for them, but you don't replace 2 first rounders very easily.
No, you do not. We'll see how they do. Bear Bachmeier played at such a high level last year, and the thought being, well, he was a first-year freshman. Now he's a sophomore. He's been in the program, blah, 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 blah. But in terms of that's a nice theory, but in terms of actuality, what level of improvement will we really see because he was so good last year?
Well, I think when you had a year that Bear had, there's obviously things to work on. We've talked on this show about like reading the moving parts over the middle of the field, but I think the overall thing that you need to work on if you really want to be an all-time BYU grade, if you want to be someone that gets to go to the NFL and have a career, is you need to work on the consistency that you need on an every game basis that makes you elite. And so to be elite, he's got to be more consistent. And what that means is if he throws for 350 against, Bo Diddley Tech, for a better reference than I can find, he's also got to be able to do that against Texas Tech.
Now, do all that, but just put in the name L.J. Martin. He ran for 1,300 yards. Can they count on that again? That's a massive total. He was 6th in the country last year. Do you expect the same kind of production, or is that too big an ask?
I do. I listen. I think L.J. Martin is one of the least talked about really good football players in the country, and it's so weird to me because we talk even here in this market, we talk a ton about Bear Bachmeier. I mean, the MVP of the league was L.J. Martin, the MVP, like top 5 player in the country, in my opinion. So yeah, I think he's going to have a huge year. He needs to stay healthy. That's always true with a running back, right? But if he stays healthy, there's no reason for me to believe that he can't replicate exactly what he did last year.
Yeah, I think the reason why we don't talk about him enough, and I agree with you, is he draws no attention to himself. He's old school. Big run, touchdown run, put the ball down, hand it to the referee, whatever it might be. There's like Jamal Williams was a charismatic guy, right? And still is. I mean, I assume he's done playing. I know he's been around the program. But he was a great interview. He'd laugh. He just the way he carried himself. L.J. Martin is so understated that you don't even realize he gained 1,300 yards last year because nothing about him brings attention to himself. And I think that's part of the reason. And in the end, as far as his NFL career and his college career, that's not going to matter because it's going to be about the production. But these people who are more flamboyant seem to get more attention. And that's pretty much, in my mind, the only reason why he's not getting it.
Well, I think that's very true. It's really refreshing to me. It reminds me a little bit of Tyler Algier in the sense that all Tyler Algier has done since he played at BYU is produce both in the NFL and everywhere he goes. And everywhere he goes, he starts to produce, and then they draft another back. Then he gets traded to the Arizona Cardinals, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to make you the guy." And then they draft another back. I mean, there is something about having a little bit of flamboyance in some of these skill positions that gets you a little bit more attention. But man, you can't argue with the production. And LJ Martin is a man-child. He is a load. He is difficult to stop. And when he is rolling, BYU is very, very tough to stop.
BYU Notre Dame tickets are more expensive than BYU Miami tickets. What's the most you'd pay to go to a game? $100, $200, $300, $400, $500? Those BYU tickets are a little over $500.
I mean, when you start thinking about that, right? Like, I actually reposted this video by Hugh Freeze the other day. That was like, some family of 5 parked 5 miles away to sit in the top of this stadium to watch your tail play football. He goes, you owe them something, right? Like, and I, when you think about it, and I got all fired up, and it was like I'm 52 years old, and I shouldn't be fired up about football season because this edit that I retweeted was awesome. But you think about it, if I want to take my family to a BYU game at BYU versus Notre Dame, I mean the ticket prices are enormous. Like, I don't know how much I'm willing to spend. I think if I wanted to take my whole family, I think you're talking about like $400 is like where I kind of draw a line. I'm like, hey man, I can watch it on TV and I can see the grass in his face mask and I can get the statistics from the announcers and I can feel the power of the game on TV now. But I mean, for me, I think it's about max 400 because if you take that, that's $2,000. Not to mention how much a cougar tail costs me now, right? Yeah. And then if I want to have Cosmo come and visit me, it's another what, $1,600?
Right.
I don't know. It feels like a lot, but look, we're not talking about college football anymore. We got to get used to this. We're talking about pro football. These are pro football prices. These are pro football wages, and these players are getting paid like pro football players now. It's going to cost more to go to a game.
Jay Hill needed a year or so to get Weber going. How much do you think Kerr needs?
I think he needs a year. I think whenever you're a coach on a, and he's not mid-major, but he's with a really, really good conference in the FCS level. I think the hardest thing to bring in is your meat and potatoes to those schools. And meat and potatoes means offensive, defensive linemen, and maybe even tight ends, like where you find like real significant contributors in that spot. But I do think that Eric Kerr is going to have a year this year where there's a few games that he puts 50 points up on the board, and you're like, oh my gosh, this could be a really, really fun team. And then there's going to be a couple of games where they lay eggs. I just don't think that they have all of the pieces together yet on the offensive and defensive line. I think he would probably tell you that. But this is going to be an exciting team all year to watch. And I think you're going to see his fingerprint very, very quickly, his fingerprints all over this program. And it's going to be fun. And there's some really, really good local players playing for Weber State.
Can he find those players you talk about in the state of Utah, or does he have to cast a wider net? Or are there enough really good Big Sky offensive linemen he'll be fine?
Well, I think there used to be, but I think what happens now is University of Utah, and I was looking at something the other day that said the average NIL payment for a P4 offensive lineman is around $200,000. Weber doesn't have $200,000. All they can compete with is playtime and a scholarship, right? And so I think it's a little bit different than it was even 5 years ago, trying to fill in some of those pieces, because if you're an offensive lineman from the state of Utah and they can pay him $100,000 to they hardly have to pay him anything to get to outrank Weber, if that makes sense.
Right.
Unless they're a real competitor and they really want to play. And so I think it's a little bit harder for an FCS school to get good offensive linemen that you aren't developing over a few years, right? So I think where Eric can make some hay is with the pre-missionary, signing a pre-missionary that weighs 260 pounds, is 6'5", 260 pounds. His dad weighs 350, and you're like, okay, this guy has the frame. We can develop him over the next couple of years that he's at Weber and on a mission. And then he probably gets developed and taken away by one of the big P4 schools, but at least you have a really good offensive lineman for 2 years in your program. And then if you help him land, then you can sell that same type of story to another offensive lineman in the future.
If the dad weighs 350, how about if the mom weighs 240?
I plead the fifth. I pull a Fauci. I'm pulling a Fauci right now.
Well, I'm wondering if Utah State should adopt that model too, to an extent. We've talked several times with Todd Phillips, the UVU basketball coach, and he openly says, come here, man. Don't go someplace where you sit on a bench and don't get enough FGAs and don't get enough minutes. Come here, show the world what you can do, and then you can go on to the ACC. You can go on to the Big Ten, because he's done all of that. You can go on to the Big 12. Those guys that he's coached, they've all done it. He has a track record. He literally can point to guys and say, hey, you could be the next fill in the blank who comes here, plays well, they win a bunch of games, you go on, you increase your money. So certainly Weber can do that, but Utah State, obviously, with the receiver going from Logan down to Utah here this year, where he has an opportunity to be the leading receiver. I'm wondering if that's a strategy that a lot of these places should employ.
Well, I think in some ways, if you're a mid-major, you're an FCS school, you really are kind of imploring the JC model that used to be when I was playing, right? It's like, hey, go start for 2 years, have an incredible season at Snow College, and then sign a Division I scholarship. I mean, look, I think I've talked to you guys offline. Like, if your son is in the state of Utah, let's say he's top 2 quarterback in the state right now, which the quarterbacks in the state of Utah are getting offers, and they're playing good football. And let's say he's the second best quarterback in the state of Utah, but he is the 78th rated quarterback in the country. It turns into a really interesting picture, and here's why. The top 50 teams in the state are going to sign, or the top 50 teams in the country are going to sign the top 50 quarterbacks in the country. However, the next 50 teams in the country are going to take bounce backs from the top 50 teams in the country and use that scholarship for that player. So you could be ranked 78th in the country, which in the past was like, you're a Division I quarterback, like you're playing Division I. Now you may have to be patient enough and smart enough to say, hey, I'm going to go to Weber State for 2 years, I'm going to start for 2 years under Eric Kerr. I'm going to throw for a bajillion yards, and then I'm going to sign my big contract at a big time P4 school. And so it's a little tougher on a high school kid because everybody likes the stickers on a helmet. But Eric could turn Weber State into a quarterback factory just like he did at Corner Canyon that churns out Division I quarterbacks and makes it so that Division I quarterbacks can come out of his program every 1 to 2 years because they're in a great system for quarterbacks. And now you play 2 years at Weber State, you have a really good chance to go play somewhere.
Yeah.
Not to mention that you had a really good scholarship. You were the big man on campus. You cut your teeth on a little bit lower level football, and now you're ready to play big time football.
I like it.
How about, as Riley just greets the neighborhood as they head off to work in the morning, good work, Riley. How about the argument that for a lot, it's very rare to move from high school to college, and then right away what you did as a high school coach doesn't matter. It doesn't. Except, and this is a major exception for Eric Kerr, when he goes out and recruits a quarterback, well, he's not getting the top 25 or 30 because of the money they're getting and their talent. But can he overachieve because he can say, why would you go there? Has anyone on that staff ever put anybody in the NFL? Because I got multiple quarterbacks on NFL rosters. This guy was drafted number 1. That guy starts for the New York Giants. I mean, he's got a story to tell. Why? You can go wherever you want, but if you come here, I'll teach you how to play in the NFL. And other people may tell you that, but take a deep breath before you buy what they're selling. And think about where my quarterbacks have gone and then look at where their quarterbacks have gone. Seems like that's the one thing that you wouldn't normally have making a jump from high school to college, but he has that to sell.
Well, I think Eric has that. He has that story to sell. I mean, he has a very compelling story. He has that story to sell to some wide receivers too that go play in the SEC that have gone on to play some big time football. Look, this is a guy who knows offense. Eric also knows defense really well. I mean, this is a very, very talented individual. If there's, we just don't see this happen very often. We hear about it going to happen. We hear that maybe it could happen here or there. I mean, there's a couple of different coaches. I'm trying to remember. There was a kid named Mitch Mustang out of Arkansas who I think his coach ended up being his offensive coordinator. Auburn later.
Malzahn?
I can't remember the exact story. Yeah. And so you had Mitch Mustang, who was this big time quarterback, and did you say Mazzoni?
Malzahn.
Yeah, Malzahn. Sorry. Malzahn ends up going up, and he ends up being his offensive coordinator, I think, at Auburn later. Now, Mitch Mustang didn't end up being the quarterback, but he got that break, and then he ended up being a great coach on the next level. But we just don't see this happen very much. I think this was a very gutsy call by the athletic director at Weber State. And I think there's going to be really interesting dividends at Weber State because of this.
We'll leave it right there for now, Riley. You can go out to the curb and greet a few more of your neighbors. We appreciate it.
Hey, look, I'm a friendly guy. Thanks for having me.
You're authentic, big guy. That's what you are.
Thank you.
Riley Jensen, former Aggie quarterback, joins us every week right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, when we come back, it is a Win Tickets Wednesday. We promised the Motley Crue, Tesla, and Extreme tickets. We'll give them away right after the break, right here on The Zone.
Buddy brings you better coverage of the teams you're passionate about than these guys.
Try some more.
This is DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12 right now. 801-575-ZONE wins 2 tickets to see Motley Crue with performances by Tesla and Extreme at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. September 21st. Tickets are on sale at livenation.com. You can win a couple tickets right now. 801-575-ZONE. Good luck. DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The topic, football. We are so close now. Morgan Scalley, Kalani Sitake both say their team's good shape. They got what they wanted out of training camp. Everything's on track for them. You buying it? Eldon says, coach speak. You hear it every August. He's waiting for the games. Can't say I blame him.
Okay, but that doesn't discount whether it's true or false.
That is true. You are correct.
That's the more important point.
There was a lot of positivity last year, and then they backed it up.
I don't know that there was a lot of positivity for BYU. I think that we were in a wait and see with Bachmeier.
There was a wait and see on Bachmeier. The team was good, but could they be great without him?
Man.
Yeah.
And so there was way more skepticism because it was an unusual circumstance. Most high-level programs don't start first-year freshmen unless they have to.
And if they do, they were there for spring ball.
And the way the world is now is they force them to miss their second half of their senior year, which I think the NCAA should outlaw that, but that's just me, for the good of the kid. And he wasn't there, although he had spring ball for Stanford. I mean, this is, talk about the new world order. You had spring ball for Stanford, and then you never played it down for them. That's just unheard of. But this is the circumstances being what they are. And obviously Troy Taylor getting dismissed led to that. And he comes here. So this year, I think for him, this is going to sound negative, but I don't mean it this way. I think there's too much hype for him because of the fact that he's just a sophomore. We're just basing it on, oh, man, he's got another year experience. Okay, great. But what does that mean in terms of on-the-field production? What more can he do that he didn't do last year? He can do everything a little better, but what is that going to mean? Is it going to mean he's going to drag the Utah defender 7 yards instead of 5? What does that actually mean in terms of his production? And as you brought up with Riley Jensen, they've got a back who ran for 1,300 yards. No one's saying, oh, man, he's going to be better. Because he was great last year. He doesn't need to be better. Every single person associated with BYU football, if you say L.J. Martin recreates 27, what he had in 26, you'd sign off on that every time. He was MVP of the conference. He literally doesn't need to do more. So just the fact that, L.J. Martin is a year older, no one's saying that, but somehow we're saying that because Bachmeier is a year older and a year more experienced. What does that actually mean in terms of better production out on the field? Now, that sounds negative, but actually it's positive because he was so good last year that I don't know that I can expect more simply because he is a year older. I got to have more than that.
And his receiving core, he had a talented veteran receiving core last year, and it is going to be different this year. Now, maybe they'll go out and make plays for him, and it'll be great. But they leaned pretty heavily on the run game last year, and why wouldn't you again? I mean, Bear's so good at running the ball. Mm-hmm. LJ scored 12 touchdowns on the ground. Bear ran for 11. And I know we've talked to A-Rod, the whole touchdown-interception ratio. That is one of the few things that A-Rod cares about statistically. And even that, he tempers a little bit. He acknowledges, you probably aren't going to throw as many touchdown passes if you're that good at running the ball.
I think he likes completion percentage too.
Yeah. Right? It's incomplete passes like the turnovers in basketball. They got all these stats for, how many points per possession and how many yards per play. The incomplete pass is 0 yards per play. The turnover is 0 points per possession. So you want to eliminate those negatives.
And actually, these 0 yards passing might be the best play under the circumstances.
There are moments where you can try to make a play, but you're just taking a risk of a turnover.
See, and that's what I'm a little concerned about. Oh, I'm a year older. I'm supposed to make this play. No, I want him to do what he did last year. And how long did he go before he threw an interception? Seemed like it was a long time.
Threw 7 on the year.
That's minuscule.
Not bad, right? Single digits for starting a freshman.
Right.
I mean, let's not get greedy here. I can look it up.
But see, there you go. It was for a freshman. I would take that for a junior.
He did not throw a pick in September, but in October, he started throwing them. But see, that goes back to your point of hey, I'm making plays now. I've eliminated mistakes. Now I've got to make bigger plays. And he throws a pick against West Virginia and 2 against Arizona, which the Arizona game, as opposed to looking at his whole season stats, can there be more consistency? Because back to the point about turnovers and completion percentage. Well, he threw 2 picks against Arizona, and he was 12 of 29, which is only 41%, which isn't nearly good enough.
Right.
And they squeaked it out in overtime.
Sure.
Yeah.
But we didn't know it at the time. That was one of their better wins because Arizona was a really good team.
Yep.
And go look at the defensive backs and how many of them went to the NFL off of that Arizona team.
Loaded. Strength of the team.
But we didn't understand it at the time because they were coming off a crappy year. And it was still somewhat earlier in the season.
Mm-hmm.
In retrospect, 12 and 29 is not good no matter what retrospect, introspect, whatever spec you got. I get that. But let's credit a little bit for Arizona because they were a pretty doggone good football team last year.
Right. And the teams where he really let up and fired up his numbers, the 70% completion rates were against Eastern Carolina, Colorado, and West Virginia. We know. In
Colorado, they were down 14-0 out on the road, and we didn't know at the time that Colorado sucked. It's the other way. It's the reverse.
He also had a game he completed 84% of his passes against UCF.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
If he completes 84% of his passes on the season, I like that.
He was right at 59 or 60% in the 2 Texas Tech games and in the Utah game. So, in the biggest games, now as a sophomore,
and he needs to do better.
Can he inch those up a little bit?
Okay.
Just the incremental improvement. Show me 65, 67%, something like that.
Well, it depends on, too, what's the play call?
Yep.
How many chances is A-Rod going to take?
How many times you throw it down the field versus how many times you hit LJ out of the backfield?
The objective is to win the game.
Yep.
And winning the game, however you do it, nobody cares how you do it, as long as you win the game.
That's back to they were really good at running the ball, and they were really good at running the ball in the red zone. Between LJ and Bear, and there were, basically LJ had a third of the touchdowns, Bear had a third of the touchdowns, and a third of the rushing touchdowns were scattered across the rest of the roster. Backup running backs, fly sweeps, whatever.
Fumble Ruski.
Fumble Ruski.
Yeah, so you put the ball on the ground there, and he picks it up. Nobody knows who has it. It's a trick. He can improve. There's no question about it. But I don't know statistically if I'm looking for widespread improvement just simply because he's a year older. Because no one is saying that about L.J. Martin. He's a year older too. Now, for him, it's all about health. That's it. That's it. Simply healthy production. Not healthy, not production. You can draw a direct line. He's proven himself to that level, and he's proven it for multiple years on the good and the bad. The bad being, of course, being dinged up. Actually, I don't expect him to reach 1,300 yards this year because Moa's there, and
they can spread the carries around.
Yeah, and Bear can run a little bit, and the passing is going to be interesting because, will they have somebody who gained 950 yards like Kingston did? Right now, I'd say no, but.
I get that. I can see why you take the under because they spread it around. Yeah. I can see why you take the under on LJ because they spread it around. I got the numbers right in front of me, and LJ 236 carries, Bear Bachmeier 147. Nobody else had more than 25.
Right.
And that's
but they didn't have Moa most of the year.
Right. Yeah. And so for Moa, if he's
they're talking about him and use him if he's good, use him.
If he's 6 or 7 carries a game, he's going to end up 60, 70, 80 carries over the course of the season. I would think so.
And, they lose Carson Ryan, and it looks like he's going to make the NFL. But they keep talking up this Salipaga and Lions, obviously. So if these guys, if they're there, then what difference does it make? Who has it as long as the collective has it? But I'm interested to see how that plays out. And for Utah, I think that's just we're going to hear that at all times. I think it's Morgan Scalley's nature to be positive. Kyle would be more matter of fact, or he wouldn't talk it up. If it wasn't there to talk it up, he wouldn't talk it up. I think Scalley is going to just be a ray of sunshine, particularly in August when you haven't lost a game. We'll see how he reacts. He's never been in this situation, never, where he's had to speak and be a leader with a loss. He's never been in that situation. I mean, when Kansas State ran up 150 yards per play last year. Scalley didn't answer for it.
Nope.
They
didn't bring him out.
Kyle, yeah.
Walking off the field, and he walked right by me, and I looked at him, and he just gave me. He didn't say anything.
Right.
Just gave me a look that just said, "I'm tired. I'm frustrated. What the heck happened? That was embarrassing." It was all in one look.
They just ran up and down the
field.
field.
That's not the same as getting up there and
Right.
talking for 10 minutes, and then having your words parsed by every media member and every booster and every player and every parent for a week until you get to play another game.
Right.
At which point, when the expectations are high, sometimes that doesn't even quiet people down because they're games where you're just expected to win, and when you do, you really don't get that much. It's just like you check a box and you move on. How long is it before you can win a big game? So you might have to live with something for 2,
when
3,
you
4
win,
weeks.
you can be happy and positive and so forth. So we'll see that. But how's it going to be? But I expect him to be in August nothing but positive because he's an upbeat guy. And you have to, Riley talks about being authentic. I actually think that is being authentic. We've been around him for friggin' 30 years to know that that's the case. And so, of course, he's going to accentuate the positive because he's going to do it every circumstance all the time anyway because it's just who he is.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. You give away those concert tickets. We all done with that?
All gone.
All right. Well, when do you want to give away the next thing? It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. We got tickets all over the place.
Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour.
All right. Stay tuned. 9 o'clock hour. We'll send you out to Wings and Wheels at the Spanish Fork Airport. That's in the 9 o'clock hour. Brian Keel at the top of the hour talking Cougar football. Stay with us.
This is Utah's best coverage of the Utes, Cougars, Jazz, and Mammoth. Here we go. From the guys who have been there for all the biggest moments in Utah sports history. You're listening to DJ and PK on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Our winner this week for the Utah County Player of the Week is Salem Hills quarterback Cash Hollingshead. Cash finished the night with 307 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for 44 yards and a score. And needing to respond to a Spanish Fork touchdown, he ran in for the score with 9 minutes left in the game as Salem Hills took the lead. Spanish Fork came back to ultimately score late and win 33-28. Great game, wild game. Cash Hollingshead is the Utah County Player of the Week. Every week, KSL Sports will name a Utah County High School Player of the Week right here on The Zone. All right, DJ and PK. PK went wild on our Facebook page yesterday. So many questions. Today's National Dog Day. What does man's best friend mean to you? People flock to this. Lucas, my chocolate lab got me through my divorce.
Oh, nice.
She's my best friend. She died 16 years after Santa brought her to my kids. That chocolate lab was my best friend.
Oh, man's best friend. Yeah.
Right? Matthew, dogs are amazing. If you find yourself feeling empty when you walk in the door after a long day, get you a couple of dogs. They change the way it feels when you come home. Best thing I ever did was getting a dog after not wanting one.
Yeah, but then they die.
I know. Rob says, best example of unconditional love there is. That's
so true. If I could love half as much as the dog, I wouldn't be in the situations that I'm in. We have 2 boxers. We had one that died. And I had to do a freaking show that morning from a hotel room in San Antonio, Texas.
Let's hear it for the Alamo Bowl, people.
Because you were flying that day and wasn't available. And the night before, I got invited to go on a boat deal with the Whittingham family. Huh? But I'm talking to my family. I'm talking to my wife, and she says something's up with the dog. And so talk with her, and I didn't go on the thing. And then the next morning, I get up, and I'm doing the show from the hotel room, and I text her, how's the dog? She texts back, he didn't make it. I had to do the show. I had 3 hours of show. And it sucked. And so now, 3 months later, we get another boxer. And, you talk about loyal, and he doesn't do it as much for me, but he sits by the window, the front window.
And waits for her to come home.
And then when he sees her car versus mine, sprints. He will run you over if you get in his way. Sprint, and you know where the door is with the garage. You've been in my house. And he'll stand right there. And
So he goes from the front window watching the car drive down the street, and when he sees it on the street,
when it
bang
comes,
to the
when it
door
turns
to come in
left to
from the
go
garage.
into the driveway,
Yeah, that's her. She's home. Bang, right to the door.
sprints from the front room to the garage entry, and
funny.
just stands there looking up. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Alexander says, no matter what my Rams, my Dodgers, my Jazz, or my Mammoth do, my best friend is still there by my side.
That's so true, man.
Brady, dogs, my best buddy. And we get a selfie. Hat, sunglasses, summer day out on the lawn with the dog.
Yeah. And the other night, dogs don't like thunder or fireworks. And the other night we had some nasty stuff. I'm downstairs. I think it's Sunday. I'm watching the Williamsport game.
Dog comes down to be with you because
No, she's upstairs. She gets the upstairs. I go downstairs, and so I come up, and we have a couch. It's a sectional thing, so it's like a half circle kind of. And there he is sitting right next to her on that couch. The first time I've ever seen him on that couch, because we got a dog bed for him. But I said, you teaching him to go? Oh, he was afraid.
Yeah, I know. There's no rules. There's no rules when
And
it
he's
comes
sitting
to
there
pets.
looking at me like, you can't kick me off because she says I can come on. Because in the front room, I used to kick him off. But now the furniture's kind of beat up.
What the heck?
And I don't care anymore.
I know.
He's only going to be around 10 years.
Yep.
Why not make it the best 10? They're not around that long. I got plenty of questions when I get to meet the devil on the other side, and that's going to be one of them. Why so short? Why do you give him come on. Can't we double it? Is it going to hurt anybody?
Give the dog 20. Let's go.
Yeah.
DJ and PK, it is National Dog Day, so get your dog a treat. When we come back, Brian Keel, former Cougar, joins us with college football right around the corner. We'll talk with him next. Stay with us.